In this lesson, we will learn how to animate an object along a path. Path animation is great to use when we need to have objects follow a trajectory. So it works great for aircrafts, but also we can use this for, let's say, a car driving down the street. In our case, what we'll do is create a neat trajectory. We'll keep it simple, and we'll have our ship fly through our environment. So let's say we go ahead and get started by first talking about how this is all going to be connected. So you can see we have some connections right now on our animation control. We still have the cycle enabled. So we wouldn't want to add our path connection on our main animation control here. That way we can use this control to add offsets. So this is what our group node is for, or our global control in this case, to add those connections while still giving us freedom to animate on the ship directly. Now what we're going to do is actually remove the cycle on our ship, because we'll work with AutoKey to add offsets along our path. So we're going to kind of start the animation fresh. So let's go ahead and remove our keyframes. We'll simply highlight them on our time slider, which we can do by holding down Shift and dragging with the left mouse button. And now we can right click and choose delete. We can now move over to frame 1 and do the same. Just go ahead and right click and delete. We could highlight everything, but it's just a way to quickly get back to our default value of 0. Getting rid of the others first, and then the first key, which was already set to 0. But now you'll see that we have no more animation. Okay, great. So we have the freedom to add our offsets. But now we're ready to go ahead and create our path and connect our aircraft to that trajectory. So what we'll do is draw the path in the top view. I'll press the F key to find the ship. There it is. It might even be helpful to turn off the grid just so we can see the path we're creating. So I'll go ahead and disable the grid from the show menu. We'll head over to the create menu, our CV curve tool, take a look at the options. I'll reset the settings. We're going to work with these default settings, making sure our curve degree is set to 3 cubic so we can draw out a smooth path. So we'll create 1 point. Then we'll have the ship kind of fly over to screen right. And then we could have it fly to the left and then straighten up at the very end. Okay, so once we've drawn out the path, let's go ahead and move back over to our perspective view. Just holding down the hot box, selecting the My icon and choosing the perspective. And now we can go ahead and tweak the path further if we'd like. What's great is that after the ship has been connected, we still have freedom to modify the path. So it's very flexible in that sense. Okay, great. So I think this path will work. Feel free to, if you like, to remove any points that may be cluttering up your curve, but I think we're good to go here. So at this point, it'd be a good idea to rename the path. Let's go ahead and simply call this our path curve. And now to connect the ship, it's just a matter of selecting the object to connect, followed by the path. And underneath the animation module, we choose Animate, Motion Paths, Attach to Motion Path. Let's go ahead and take a look at our settings. Just make sure that they're set to default. A lot of these settings we can set in the attribute editor after we have connected the object. So we'll go ahead and take a look. But notice you can set your time range, you can set your path behavior, and then you could also set your object's direction along the path. So let's go ahead and just choose attach, and we'll take a look at some settings we have. again via the attribute editor. All right, so you can see we now have these yellow connections letting us know our ship has been attached, and if we hit play, let's go ahead and take a look. Well, you'll now see that our ship, yes, it's moving along the path, but for one, I don't quite like the speed too much, so we'll go ahead and adjust that in the next lesson. But something we can adjust right now is the direction that the ship is traveling along. Now, if our pilot here was doing some tricks, well, maybe this might work, but chances are we want this to fly straight forward. So let's go ahead and select the object that has been connected to our motion path. Here's that node. And now we can go to the attribute editor, go to the motion path tab, and let's go ahead and change the front axis. Currently, it's set to the x-axis of the ship. That's why it's sideways. But we know that the front axis of the ship is actually the z-axis. So let's go ahead and again grab the group and we'll adjust the front axis to point at the z-axis. Beautiful. All right, so as we go ahead and play back the animation, we'll see now the ship is traveling in the right axis. Okay, beautiful. Again, you can go to your path and adjust it if you'd like. So you can go ahead and take these endpoints and maybe bring them up just a little bit more. And then go to your start points and maybe drag those down so the ship kind of arcs up. And then if you wanted to, you can go back to object mode, again hitting F8, and drag the path up a little bit higher. And notice everything will play back correctly. If you're familiar with path animation, you might also notice that we're not getting any major cycle warnings as we scrub through the animation. So that is another nice update about 2013. But either way, if you run into a cycle warning, in this case, it's just fine because that's common with path animation. However, there are cases where cycle warnings are very much a problem, and they cause things to not behave as they should. If you're rigging a character and you run into cyclic warnings, chances are that means that you have a codependency that will eventually break as you start to transform your rig. So be very careful about that. And again, this is one of the only exceptions, path animation, where cyclic warnings are okay. But now with that said, let's go ahead and stop the lesson and learn how to adjust our interpolation, and we'll also take a look at a few other settings we could use to, let's say, have the ship bank as it flies along this trajectory.